Hi guys, it's Amber from Amber Eats Books, and I'm here today to bring you my weekly wrap-up. This is the video where I recap what I read last week, tell you what I'm currently reading, and what I hope to read for the coming week. I had a pretty okay week last week. I mean, there was nothing crazy about it. It was just a regular work week. I had a few errands to run on the weekend, and then we got a little bit of snow on Saturday, so I was able to get 3 books accomplished. One of them was quite large, so I can understand that. And Sunday, though, I probably could have fit in another book, and I had plans to fit in another book. But then I started watching Gilmore Girls, and I was just sucked down into the Gilmore Girls rabbit hole. I am just binging it now, so I'm hoping to, get some reading done today, but I've already binged 2 episodes. I've binged one while I was getting ready for work, and then one when I got home from work in between my runs. I was making dinner for tonight. I got it into the crock pot, so I was watching an episode while I was doing that. I can't get enough of it. I watched it when I was a teenager, but for some reason I wasn't like obsessed with it back then. Probably, I needed to be a little bit more mature because I love the show now. I am on season 2, and oh my gosh. So if I'm not getting a lot of reading done in the next week or 2, you'll know why. Anyway, let's get into these books. As always, I'm going to start with my lowest ranked book and work my way up to my highest ranked. This week I did have one book that I did not rank, and that is because I DNF'd it, and that was The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova. I got 62 pages in, and I just was not feeling it. I was not in the right headspace for a slow book. The story had not grabbed me. I don't know. I just did not feel like reading it. I have talked to quite a few people about this since I have DNF'd it, and many of them said that it was not worth it. A few people said that they really did enjoy it. So I want to know your opinion. Did you guys love this? Did you not? Have you heard about people loving it? Have you heard about people not loving it? Because I really don't know. I don't want to like DNF it forever because I really did like the writing, and there are other books by her that I do want to read because their premises sound very interesting. I just don't know if she is an author for me because of the story itself, how it was progressing. I did get spoiled a little bit about what this book was about, going through looking at some reviews. I was trying not to get spoiled, but some people don't put spoiler warnings on their things, so I did get a little spoiled, and I will say I was not impressed with the spoiler that I read. So anyway, what is your opinion? Should I finish it? Should I not? Let me know. The first book that I'm going to talk about is A Widow for 1 Year by John Irving. I rated this 3 stars. I wanted to love this book. I wanted to love it as much as I loved A Prayer for Owen Meany, because John Irving is a new to me author. A Prayer for Owen Meany was the first book I have ever read by him. I really fell in love with his writing, and I was hoping to have like a repeat performance in this book. That just didn't happen for me. I had some problems with one of the relationships that he decided to portray in this book. It was between a young boy, a minor boy, and a 39-year-old woman. It's not a spoiler. It happens right in the beginning of the book, so nothing spoilerish about it. It progresses, how the young boy deals with it throughout the book. But I couldn't get behind that fact, and it kind of like irked me, and I couldn't just sink down into the story the way I wanted to because I was so uncomfortable in some of the scenes with him and this woman. It opens in a very shocking way. I wasn't expecting it going from the last book that I read by him to this book. I don't know, it just wasn't for me. I didn't particularly enjoy it. It follows a family or a group of characters throughout their life. It's split into 3 sections. One is, it starts in the summer of 1958, it moves to the fall of 1990, and then the fall of 1995. So you kind of get a scope of their life through these time periods. I don't know, I wanted to love it so much more than I did. Not that it was bad, because I feel like the story of the summer of 1958, that on its own probably could have been a great story, though I still did not enjoy that relationship that was in it. I could probably look past that fact and kind of see where he was coming from and what he was doing if it was just that section. After that section, the story kind of fell apart a little bit more for me. I did see some beautiful moments later on in the book, and I'm glad that I read it because I still enjoyed his writing. I just wanted to love it, and I didn't. The first line in this book is, "One night when she was 4 and sleeping in the bottom bunk of her bunk bed, Ruth Cole woke to the sound of lovemaking. It was coming from her parents' bedroom." The next book I want to talk about is Good As Gone by Amy Gentry. This is a thriller about a family whose daughter goes missing one night. She is taken from their home. And that's as far as I'm going to go as far as the plot synopsis, because I went into this book without even reading what it was about. I had no idea. I had not seen it on anyone's channels. If I had, I didn't remember. I mean, I had seen at least the cover, so I know I must have saw it somewhere, but I didn't remember a single thing about what I heard, what I could have heard about it anyway, and I just went into this book completely blind, and I love doing that. So I think that might be my new approach to thrillers. I'm just going to go ahead and read it without looking at any sort of thing about it, because as I went along in this story, every twist in the plot, I was kind of taken aback and I was surprised and I loved it. It was so much fun. Was it the greatest thriller ever written? No, I had guessed a thing here or there. I could kind of see where the author was trying to go, and it wasn't the best, but it was pretty darn good. I really enjoyed it. It was, if nothing else, a very entertaining way to spend my Saturday afternoon, because that's when I read this, most of it anyway. I gave this 3.5 stars. I don't know what else to say about it because I don't want to give anything away, but I really enjoyed it. So if you guys are just looking for a fun way to spend an afternoon, and if you really like some mystery, go ahead and give this book a try. The first line in this book is, "Jane woke up and whispered, 'Julie?'" The last book that I read this week was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This book was a 5-star read for me. It was beautiful, it was heartbreaking, it was imaginative and creative. I loved it. I really, really did. It's about a boy who has a monster that comes and visits him, you know, at night. And I don't want to go any more into the book than that because I feel like it's a story that kind of needs to unfold as you're reading it. I went into it not knowing anything about it. I had been very lucky by avoiding any type of spoiler that I could have found, because this has been all over not only BookTube but now all over TV because of the movie coming out. And I was so lucky to not be able to hear any spoilers before I read it, because I didn't know anything more than he obviously has a monster that comes and visits him. I didn't really know why or what it was about, and as I read it, I loved it, and I was crying multiple times as I read it. Such a beautiful story. I hope to get the graphic novel, I believe it is, edition of this as well, because I think that would be another unique way to take this story in. I'm really excited to see the movie too, but I'm glad I read the book beforehand because I just want to know, I want to know what the author saw as he wrote it as versus what, you know, the movie industry decided to do with it. But it's just beautiful on its own. It didn't really need any changing, so I hope they don't change too much. I haven't seen it yet. Don't give me any spoilers. Anyway, really loved it. If you guys are unsure about reading it because it's YA or anything, don't be. I feel like everyone and anyone could get something out of this story. The first line in this book is, "The monster showed up just after midnight." So those were all the books that I was able to finish this week. I could have had this next one done by today, but like I said, I sunk into that Gilmore Girls hole, so I did it. Anyway, that book is The Couple Next Door by Sherry LaPena. I know that this is a thriller, and I'm gonna go with the same approach as I went to with Good As Gone. I'm not gonna read a single thing about this. I'm just gonna dive right in. I did finish the first chapter. I'm very interested in continuing it, so we will see how it goes, and I will let you guys know next week. So as for the books that I'm going to be reading this week, I don't have any others picked out than the one that I'm currently reading, The Couple Next Door. So I'm going to break out, I think, both of my TBR jars this week. I think I'm going to choose 2 fiction and maybe 1 nonfiction that I can choose from for the rest of the week. So let's start with the nonfiction. Hopefully it's a good one because I've been in the mood for nonfiction recently and I don't know. Let's see. What is it? Chasing Justice. Don't know what that is. I can't remember which one. So hold on, let me go grab that. So I found it. Chasing Justice by Carrie Max Cook. My story of freeing myself after 2 decades on death row for a crime I didn't commit. It says Carrie Cook is an innocent man who wrongly served 2 decades in Texas's notorious death house for the brutal 1977 rape and murder of 21-year-old Linda Jo Edwards. A shocking look inside death row, a legal thriller, and an inspirational story of one man's ultimately triumphant fight against extreme adversity. So it sounds very interesting. I've had this book on my shelf for quite a while. It's one of those books that I wanted to read it as soon as I picked it up, and then I just kind of set it on my shelf and forgot that it was there. So I'm glad that I picked it out of my jar. It's probably not one that I would have just plucked up off the shelf on my own, which is the reason why I made these TBR jars, because I have such a hard time deciding that I end up reading the same types of books, even though I kind of buy diversely, like all different kinds of books. I just don't always pick up those ones that I'm not as comfortable reading. So this will push me outside of my comfort zone just a little, and I am excited to give it a try. I'll let you guys know how it is hopefully next week. So now let's choose 2 fiction out of my fiction TBR jar. Trying to mix them up well because I feel like all these Post-its stick together when I try to get just one out. The first one is called Sea Glass. I'll have to look at my shelf. I think I know. I think that might be by Anita Shreve, but we'll have to look. And the second one is going to be Leaving Time, which I think is by Jodi Picoult. So let me go get those. How funny is it that I picked 2 more Post-its out of this jar that is probably filled with at least 60 or 70 of them, and I pick out 2 books that are on the same exact shelf yet again this week, just like I did last week. I just find that hilarious. Anyway, the first book that I picked out was Sea Glass by Anita Shreve. I was right. This is a book about a pair of newlyweds who are trying to begin their life and live their life in this derelict beach house on the Atlantic coast, and it says you'll never know, they soon discover how threatening the world outside their front door can be. So it sounds very interesting. I am in New England. It is winter, it is cold, there is snow on the ground, so any book that is set by the ocean right now is very welcomed by me because I would love to dream about some warmer days. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to giving this book a try. The next book that I picked out of my TBR jar was Leaving Time by Jodi Picoult. That's how I've always said the last name. If I'm saying it wrong, let me know because I think I heard someone else say it differently. I hate butchering authors' names, but it should come with some sort of like, here's how you say my last name, because I'm just terrible. I'm so terrible at saying these last names sometimes. Anyway, this book is about a woman named Jenna. Her mother had disappeared when she was 3 years old during the wake of this tragic accident. She ends up teaming up with a psychic and a private investigator to find out what happened to her mother, and whatever happened seems to be really unbelievable. So it sounds very interesting. It sounds like probably a good time. Most of Jodi's books I think I rate, you know, around a 3 to 3.5 range. So I know that I'm not going to probably be blown away by too much that happens, but I will probably at least enjoy it and have a good time reading it. So I'm excited to see what this has in store for me. One of my friends said this was her favorite book by her that she has read. I think my favorite book was The Storyteller. That was really good. I really enjoyed that one. So if you guys have read this, let me know what you think. So those were all the books that I read, what I'm currently reading, and what I hope to read for the coming week. If you guys have read any of these, let me know your opinions of those books down below in those comments. I would really love to hear about it. I love discussing things with you. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week and happy reading.